Version 4.1. Initializing upgrades. Accessing peace. Existing without violence, with the ability to calmly resolve conflict. Downloading love. An overwhelming, deep, positive affection towards others. Activating liberty. Living your life as you see fit without infringing on the lives of others.
Welcome to Peace, Love, Liberty Radio, online at fppradio.com. I am your host, Darryl W. Perry, the Liberty Penguin, the Wombat, the uncut cocaine of libertarianism, and it's Cyber Monday. If you don't know what that means, then I'll explain to you, because it's a newer shopping gimmick thing. It's been around for a few years. It's sort of the online version of Black Friday, even though there were reports over the weekend that online sales for Thanksgiving Day and Black Friday both jumped by about 21% over the 2 days. And Cyber Monday, there's a lot of businesses that, specifically target online sales. Some of them, Namecheap, for example. I registered a couple of domains today because, they were 88 cents, and I had wanted to get, these domains anyway, and I'll be explaining at a later date what the domains were. But yeah, so you can get some really good online deals on Cyber Monday. And if you use Bitcoin, hopefully you do, then through the rest of today, Monday, the 28th of November, if you use code BTC Friday 2016, yes, I know it's BTC Friday 2016 is the code, but it's good Cyber Monday as well, you will get an extra 20% off your minimum $10 purchase through the Bitcoin store at Free Press Publications. btcshop.fpp.cc. And yes, that link will be in the show notes as well as the code. So let's get into the stories that I have. And I've got two different stories that kind of in some ways are related. Not exactly, but slightly. It's one of these sort of, like tangentially, if you look hard enough, you can kind of see the microscopic touching of the articles. But I'll start off with the one that's been in the show prep folder a little bit longer, titled Embrace Your Little Faults. They define, or rather, they are what define you. How much of our lives are we dedicated, or rather, have we dedicated to perfection? And no, that was not intentional. I did not intentionally flub up the question about perfection. But just think about that for a moment. A lot of people that do podcasts would go in and correct that. But the way I do this, it's live to tape. Well, technically there is no tape, but it's, a live record. So if I goof up on something, I leave it in because that's what actually happened. But I digress and continue. And just in case, you do a podcast where you go through and edit things out, that's fine. I'm not making a judgment call on that because I understand. Trust me. I do a lot of audio work. I understand how difficult it is to go through and remove all of the imperfections. I understand. I've recorded 7-hour audiobooks. And if you don't know how long it takes to record and edit audio, let me just explain it this way. Every morning, I record a 5-minute newscast. The finished product is 5 minutes. It takes me generally about 20 to 30 minutes to record and edit and upload the newscast. The 7-hour audiobook, that was 7 finished hours of audio. It took about between 40 to 45 actual hours of me sitting there reading, going through editing. Oh, wait a second, this doesn't sound right. Let me re-record this. Let me re-edit. Oh, and it still doesn't sound right. So there's a lot of work that goes into audio production. And I don't think a lot of people realize how much work goes into it. And it's not that, I don't want to work. The reason I do this as a live record is because I prefer the radio feel of the show. And if you are not familiar, the show started almost 4 years ago. The anniversary show is Friday. And I'm really glad that the anniversary date is actually falling on the day that I record, so that I can actually do a anniversary show that's on the anniversary date. But I digress. So the show began 4 years ago on the Liberty Radio Network as a live 2-hour show on Sundays from 3 to 5. And then a couple of years ago, it was actually, I think, 2 years, maybe 3. I forget exactly when it was. But a couple of years ago, I stopped doing it live on Sundays and started recording 3 times a week. And in some kind of ways, it actually, wound up freeing up more time for me, even though there's almost roughly the same amount of finished audio. Because with, 2 hours of a show from 3 to 5 and then the commercial breaks, it broke down to where there was just over, I think just over an hour finished, 1 hour and 20 minutes. So you're actually getting a few more minutes of audio content by this being thrice weekly instead of one time on a Sunday. So that's the reason that I do the way I do. And let's get back into the article that I just began. How much of our lives have we dedicated to perfection? The straight A's, the beach body, the perfect score, the list goes on. Striving towards perfection and then not achieving it can lead to depression, unhealthy mood swings, and self-deprecating doubt. These frustrations pile on, and eventually a perfectionist may find themselves struggling to accept themselves. There's a lot more in this article, as well as the other that I may or may not be able to get to here on Peace, Love, Liberty Radio.
Are you sick of government lackeys who say you didn't build that? Are you tired of elitists who think you need a government permission slip for everything? Everything you do is an A to B conversation, and the government should see their way out of it. Create true free markets by adopting the BIPCOT No Government License. The BIPCOT No Gov license allows use or modification of any product, service, or software except by governments or government agents. Go to BIPCOT.org. That's Bravo, India, Papa, Charlie, Oscar, Tango.org.
Bitcoin Not Bombs is a launching pad for nonprofits and social entrepreneurs into the financial freedom of the Bitcoin economy. Bitcoin Not Bombs offers premium publicity campaigns designed to facilitate an organization's adoption of Bitcoin as a payment system. Bitcoin Not Bombs is fully committed to being the hub of the nonprofit sector of the Bitcoin economy, maximizing the potential cross-promotion of all our clients and commercial partners. To learn more, visit bitcoinnotbombs.com.
Hi, this is Roger Paxton from the Lava Flow Podcast, the Free Coast Freecast, and Pax Libertas Productions, and you're listening to Peace, Love, Liberty Radio with Darryl W. Perry.
Welcome back to Peace, Love, Liberty Radio, online at fppradio.com. I mentioned earlier Cyber Monday. And, well, you might be able to find some Cyber Monday deals at Spend-A-Bit. And I definitely recommend this site, especially if you use Bitcoin. Why? Well, that's because Spend-A-Bit is a search engine for things you can buy with Bitcoin. Think of it as Google for the Bitcoin economy. Spend-A-Bit aggregates millions of products from thousands of Bitcoin-enabled merchants. Keep your money in the free economy. Spend-A-Bit. Use my affiliate link, spendabit.fppradio.com. And if you're a Bitcoin-accepting merchant, like I am, ask about their merchant suite to reach even more customers. Spendabit.fppradio.com. That's spendabit.fppradio.com. Getting back into the article about embracing your faults. If a person can't accept who they are, they lose sight of themselves, and then they seek out ways to sculpt who they think they're supposed to be. The author here writes, I'm a straight A student. I'm a size 0. I have achieved 100%. Underneath all of these titles, expressed through accomplishments, who is the person who achieved those things? They could not have possibly made it through without having made some mistake and being imperfect in other things. Faults and flaws are what make individuals different from each other. So how is perfection defined? Being a straight A student, wearing a size 0 in jeans, is by no means an absolute definition of perfection. If those things are, if those things are considered your goals, then great, go for it. Work hard to get what you want because there's nothing wrong with that. But make certain that you're doing it for genuine reasons. It has to be what you want, not what you think everyone else wants for you. Having B's or C's or wearing whatever size you wear does not dictate how close or far you are from perfection. You dictate who you are. Perfection does not define you, and you are not defined by perfection. The dictionary defines perfection as the condition, state, or quality of being free or as free as possible from all flaws or defects. The dictionary then defines flaw as a mistake or shortcoming in a plan, theory, or legal document that causes it to fail or reduces its effectiveness. Was having a B in world history a shortcoming in your plans? Does it reduce your effectiveness as a person? Now think about that. It might have, messed up your plans for, I want to get all A's so that I can get a scholarship to go study some BS in college. Okay, so it messed up the plans, but it does not reduce you as a person. Will you not be able to perform your duties in your daily work and personal lives if you did not get an A in world history? Maybe it does if you plan to study history in college and you plan to become a professor or a scholar in the field. If so, congratulations, you have a goal, but you will have to make mistakes along the way in order to learn what not to do. Just going to merge away from the article here for a moment. There's a quote that's often attributed to Thomas Edison, and I'm not necessarily a big fan of Thomas Edison. I think he was kind of a thief. And if you don't believe me, just, do some research into a man named Nikola Tesla. There were things that Tesla invented that Edison wound up was like, oh, yeah, no, that's mine. There were other things that other people invented, and Edison was like, nope, that's mine. That's why there's the joke, if you own a Tesla and it gets stolen, does it then become an Edison? But Edison once allegedly said, I didn't fail at making a light bulb. I just found 10,000 different ways that it didn't work. So what they're saying here is, maybe you made a mistake. Bob Ross, the artist guy, I don't know if he's still alive, but he used to do the painting show on PBS. And he would say, there's no such thing as a mistake. It's just a happy little accident, and we'll turn this into a tree. So take your happy little accidents in life and turn them into trees. Yes, that's a metaphor, in case you thought I was serious about turning things into trees. But I digress and continue. That B that you got in world history informed you of what it was that you did not know. You made a mistake, leaving you the opportunity to learn. This is how you grow. Growth is defined as the process of developing or maturing physically, mentally, or spiritually. By not being perfect, there's always room to grow. Striving and achieving perfection would infer that there's no more growth needed. You have peaked physically, mentally, and spiritually. There's nothing else to satisfy, nothing else to learn, nothing else to do. Perfection actually sounds a little boring, doesn't it? Don't strive for perfection. Strive instead for balance. Have you ever gone to an interview and been asked, "Tell us your strengths"? I know I have. And I hate these weird sort of open-ended, like, tell me your 3 biggest flaws, or tell me the 3 things that make you a good employee. And I know that, or at least I don't know. I'm speculating here, but I've heard that the reason, interviewers will ask that question is they want to see, not necessarily what your answer is, but if you have those already pre-prepared to just like roll off your tongue, do you sound overly confident? Do you sound like, well, you know what? I've got to think about this for a minute. And, it's some kind of weird psychoanalyzing sort of thing that some people try. And I don't think everybody's good at, actually reading this stuff. But I think a lot of people will ask the question because they think, well, that's what I'm supposed to ask people when I'm interviewing them for a job. But you might respond, I'm great at analyzing. I work hard. I'm a kind, loving person. These skills are wonderful assets to have. But what does the employer think? Well, stay tuned. This is Peace, Love, Liberty Radio.
When you hear the word lobbyist, you probably think about greedy corporations, but not all lobbyists are the same. Some are fighting for the freedoms you hold dear. Liberty Lobby LLC is doing just that in New Hampshire, working hard to represent you, not some special interest group. You can help by going to libertylobby.xyz, where your contribution will give us the tools we need to ensure that your voice is heard. Visit libertylobby.xyz today to find out more. Coinbase is a simple and secure online Bitcoin wallet for sending, receiving, and storing Bitcoin. Coinbase also allows you to buy and sell Bitcoin using a bank account or use their tools to accept Bitcoin as a merchant. Coinbase has more than 1 million consumer wallets and is trusted by over 25,000 merchants, including Overstock.com, Khan Academy, Reddit, and of course, FPP. Get started at coinbase.fppradio.com.
You're listening to Peace, Love, Liberty Radio with Darryl W. Perry, online at fppradio.com.
Hey, welcome back to Peace, Love, Liberty Radio. Tell me your strengths. You might get that during a job interview. You might answer, I'm great at analyzing things. I work hard at what I do. I'm a kind, loving person. These skills are wonderful assets. For what the employer is looking for, these could even be the key to getting you in the door. But then the interviewer says, well, what are your weaknesses? You stumble, you aren't sure what to say, you haven't thought about it very much. Or you couldn't come up with anything before the interview. The reality is that what makes us strong can also make us weak. You could say I analyze too much and I forget to listen to my instincts, thus I second-guess my own conclusions. You could say I worked too hard. Last year I was in the hospital because I was stressed and malnourished and my doctor told me that I have to take a week off. You could say I'm really nice. It's so nice that I let people take advantage of me and I don't say anything because I don't want to hurt their feelings. And that's okay. While you were trying to become better at problem solving, elevating your work ethic, and sustaining your virtues, you might not have realized that trying to do too much of one thing can be bad. It's important to work towards becoming better at those things, but it's also important to accept that you are a human and that your strengths aren't always going to be consistent. Don't strive for perfection, strive for balance, and you may find peace within yourself. Accept that you could be better at something, but where you are now is where you're supposed to be. Trust yourself, believe in yourself, and allow yourself to be you. Forcing yourself to be something more can be disastrous for your personal and work life and your health. If someone was perfect, they would be a robot. Ideas of perfection, whether they be of our intangible attitudes or our bodies, are social constructs that dictate expectations and standards. Comparisons are often drawn to categorize people. And this is something I was talking about a couple of weeks ago, about the comparisons, to where everybody is comparing themselves to somebody else. And you might not think, well, I don't compare myself to other people, but think about it for a moment. You might not compare yourself to, somebody that has a better paying job or a nicer car or a nicer house, but you might secretly be thinking, well, I'm glad I'm doing better than that guy over there. I'm glad I'm not an a-hole like, fill in the blank person I know. People do compare themselves to others. It could be in the self-aggrandizing, boost their own ego sort of way, or it could be in sort of a self-deprecating, oh, well, I'm never going to wind up living up to what, John down the street's doing. But people do compare themselves. And, not that there's necessarily anything wrong with, comparing yourself to somebody else, but don't let that consume you. Back to the article, comparisons are often drawn to categorize people. That's what our minds do. They organize chaos. But if everyone was expected to look or behave a certain way, we'd all look and behave the same. As obvious of a statement as that may seem, it's not so widely conceded. People come in all shapes and sizes and colors. They hold their own beliefs and morals, aspirations and fears. Their experiences are their own, and no one ever experiences precisely the same life as anyone else. And I would dare say that no two people experience the same experience the same way. Think about that for just a second. Two people do not experience the same experience in the same way. And that is one of the wonderful things about, this thing called life, to where everybody has their own sort of interpretations of how life works and how life happens. Everyone makes mistakes and has blemishes and faults. These elements cannot be manufactured. As a result, the standard dictated by social constructs are irrelevant. Everyone is different, and that is just fine. Changing topics now, and again, these are somewhat tangentially related, slightly, barely, maybe. The title of the article, Beating Pessimism. The human mind is an amazing entity. And let me just explain why I think these are related. After telling you, hey, don't try to be perfect, you might be a little down. Well, I'm never going to be perfect, so just screw life. And now you're pessimistic or depressed. Well, how do you wind up, beating pessimism? The article here, I'm going to skip the introductory paragraph, and they say, understand your negative thinking. Once you recognize that your thoughts have become overwhelmingly pessimistic, you need to understand how this has come to be. Has a traumatic experience affected your thoughts in a negative way? Have you experienced changes in your life that have been too tough to deal with? If this is the case, you might need to seek professional help, and there's no shame in this. The real shame is in ignoring the issues that you're facing and remaining stagnant rather than moving forward in life. If you've analyzed your thoughts and realize that you don't really have much to be upset about, you've taken the first step towards recovering your optimistic demeanor. However, it won't be easy to just let go of the negativity. It will require you to recognize that you're thinking pessimistically and change your perspective on life in general. Stay tuned. there is more on how to beat pessimism here on Peace, Love, Liberty Radio.
Why do they hate us? Is libertarianism compatible with Islam? Davi Barker answers these questions and more in Voluntary Islam and Other Essays. He advances the voluntarist cause with analysis of the confluence of values between Islam and libertarianism, as well as contemporary movements from the Tea Party to the Arab Spring. Voluntary Islam by Davi Barker is available from Amazon.com and all major bookstores. You can support FPP Radio by shopping online. Whether you're looking for precious metals, bitcoins, or books, you'll find that and more at shop.fppradio.com. Every purchase you make from one of my affiliates, like Namecheap, Spendabit, and Amazon at shop.fppradio.com helps fund FPP Radio. Or you can shop directly from FPP with Bitcoin in the Bitcoin store. That's shop.fppradio.com.
You're listening to Peace, Love, Liberty Radio with Darryl W. Perry, online at fppradio.com.
Welcome back to Peace, Love, Liberty Radio, online at fppradio.com. Here in the closing moments, I do believe that I'll be able to finish this article on how to beat pessimism. Probably going to have to cut some stuff out. So, as always, the link will be in the show notes. So, how do you beat pessimism? Well, first you need to understand your negative thinking and then recognize when you're overthinking. Analyzing a situation ad nauseum almost always leads to disaster. The author here says, as I previously mentioned, when you overthink a specific issue, you more than likely start perceiving otherwise neutral scenarios in either a positive or a negative light. This is where Murphy's Law comes into play. While you might believe a given scenario has a single best possible outcome, you'll likely be able to conjure up many more negative possible outcomes that will bog down your thought process. Even if these possible outcomes aren't even probable, your mind can trick you into magnifying them while minimizing the chances of a successful outcome taking place. When this happens, you need to first of all recognize that you are overthinking and then start taking action to alleviate your negative thoughts. There's more in that paragraph, but I'll skip down. They say don't overgeneralize. A lot of us fall victim into the all or nothing thinking, especially in terms of our perception of how things go wrong in life. From something as simple as believing you always hit every red light on your way home, to more serious issues like you always mess up big projects. This tunnel vision distracts you from the times that things have actually gone exactly as you planned. The truth is, you're more than likely just had some times when you've hit every green light on the way home, but they don't stick out in your mind because you didn't focus on them as much as when you hit every red light. On the same token, there's no possible way you always screw up at work. If that were true, you would not even have a job. Sure, you might make mistakes every now and then, but everyone else does too. Again, you only remember the moments that you mess up because those were the bumps in an otherwise smooth road that you were on. The all-or-nothing way of thinking not only negatively affects your perception of your abilities, but it also becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy of sorts. If you truly believe that you don't ever do anything right, sooner or later you'll stop putting your best effort into your work, and you'll eventually prove yourself right. Recognize the importance of skepticism, and there's a fine line between being skeptical and pessimistic, so take this advice with caution. And, well, I don't have time to share it to you, so you'll just have to go read the article at your leisure. It will be in the show notes. And don't forget, every Wednesday I answer your questions. Send those over AMA at fppradio.com.
The podcasts of FPP Radio are licensed under Copy Heart. We believe that copying is a form of flattery and do not abide by the copyright laws. Those laws serve to restrict the flow of ideas which no one can really own. Copying is an act of love. Love is not subject to law. If you enjoy the show, consider joining the Fans program and get perks like ad-free versions of Peace, Love, Liberty Radio and FPP Radio News, and also get a copy of the monthly newspaper FPP News. To learn more or to join the Fans program, visit fans.fppradio.com.